Jake Morrison stood in the middle of the huge room and looked around at all the strange creatures. The Galactic Council Station was the biggest building he had ever seen. It was made of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. The room was so large that he could barely see the walls on the other side. Hundreds of aliens sat in floating chairs arranged in circles around him. Some looked like giant insects with wings that sparkled like glass. Others were tall and thin with purple skin and forearms. There were creatures that looked like living rocks and some that seemed to be made of pure energy floating in clear boxes. Jake was the only human in the room. He wore a simple black suit that looked very plain compared to the fancy clothes and armor of the aliens around him. His brown hair was cut short and his blue eyes were calm, but inside he felt angry. The meeting had been going on for 3 hours. One by one, different alien species had stood up to complain about humans. They said humans were taking over planets that did not belong to them. They said humans were too violent and dangerous to be trusted. The Zephyrian Chancellor was speaking now. She looked like a giant butterfly with a woman's face. Her voice came through the translation device as a series of musical notes that turned into words Jake could understand. The human species has shown complete disregard for the Galactic Accord, she said. Her wings fluttered as she spoke. They have built colonies on 17 worlds without permission. They have disrupted trade routes that have existed for thousands of years. They must be stopped before they cause more damage to our peaceful galaxy. Many of the aliens made sounds of agreement. Some clicked their teeth together. Others hummed in harmony. The rock creatures made deep rumbling noises that shook. The floor next to speak was Ambassador Veltar from the Trilaxian Trade Consortium. He was short and fat with gray skin and tiny black eyes. His people controlled most of the shipping in this part of the galaxy. They were very rich and very proud. Humans are like children playing with fire, Veltar said. His voice was high and squeaky. They do not understand the complex systems that keep our galaxy running smoothly. Their colonies block our ancient shipping lanes. Our profits have dropped by 30% because of their interference. Jake wanted to laugh. The Trilaxians were upset because they could not charge huge fees to use space routes anymore. Human ships offered the same service for much less money. That was called fair competition where Jake came from. The Vorthon Empire representative spoke. Next, General Krex was 8 feet tall with green scales and yellow eyes like a snake. His people were warriors who had conquered many worlds long ago. Humans are a threat to the natural order, Krex hissed. His forked tongue flicked out as he spoke. They breed too fast and spread too quickly. Our scientists predict they will try to take over the entire galaxy within 200 years. We must limit their expansion now while we still can. This made Jake angry. The Vorthons had taken over 50 worlds by force. They kept billions of other aliens as slaves. But somehow humans were the problem because they built cities and farms on empty planets that nobody else wanted. For 2 more hours, alien after alien stood up to complain about humans. They said humans were too aggressive. They said human technology was dangerous. They said humans did not respect the old ways of doing things. Finally, the High Arbiter stood up to speak. Kexthalan was older than any other being in the galaxy. His people, the progenitors, had been traveling between the stars when most other species were still living in caves. He looked like a tall man made of silver metal, but his eyes glowed with ancient wisdom. The Galactic Council has reached a decision, Kexthalan said. His voice was deep and serious. The human species will remove all colonies from the Outer Rim territories within 60 standard days. They will pay 50,000 galactic credits in fines for violating the Galactic Accord. They will also accept permanent council oversight of any future expansion beyond their assigned sector. The room fell completely silent. Every alien eye, sensor, and awareness focused on Jake Morrison. They expected him to argue or beg for mercy. They expected him to ask for more time or try to negotiate better terms. Instead, Jake smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a wolf might give to a sheep just before dinner time. Several of the empathic aliens in the room suddenly looked very uncomfortable. They could sense something dangerous in the humans' emotions. Jake walked slowly to the center of the speaking area. His footsteps echoed in the huge, quiet room. When he reached the middle, he stopped and looked around, at all the aliens watching him. "I have listened to your complaints for 5 hours," Jake said. His voice was calm and steady. "You have called humans dangerous and aggressive. You have said we do not belong in your galaxy. You have demanded that we give up worlds where human children are being born and human families are building new lives." He paused and let his words sink in. Some of the aliens shifted nervously in their seats. "The human delegation has an answer for the Galactic Council," Jake continued. "We respectfully decline your terms. Furthermore, humanity officially withdraws from the Galactic Accord, effective immediately." The room exploded with noise. Aliens jumped to their feet and began shouting in dozens of different languages. The translation system could not keep up with all the angry voices talking at once. The Zephyrian Chancellor's wings buzzed so fast they became a blur. "Do you understand what you are saying?" she demanded. "No species can survive outside the Galactic Accord. You will be cut off from all trade. You will have no protection from pirates or hostile forces." The Trilaxian ambassador waved his fat arms in the air. "This is madness. Humans cannot possibly stand against the combined might of the galaxy. You are one small species among thousands." General Krex of the Vorthons stood up to his full height. His scales turned dark red with anger. "Your people will regret this foolish decision. The Empire will not tolerate such disrespect." Jake waited for the noise to die down. When the room was quiet again, he spoke in the same calm voice as before. "You seem to think this is a negotiation," he said. "It is not. You have threatened human colonies. You have demanded that human families abandon their homes. You have insulted human dignity and human rights." He looked directly at each of the major ambassadors as he continued. "Humanity declares a state of total war against any force that attempts to interfere with human sovereignty or threaten human lives. This is not a bluff. This is not a bargaining position. This is a promise." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the energy beings stopped their constant humming. Every creature in the room stared at the single human standing alone in the center of their great hall. High Arbiter Kexthalan leaned forward in his ancient chair. "You cannot be serious. One species cannot declare war on the entire galaxy." Jake's smile got wider and more frightening. "Watch us." 3 weeks had passed since Jake Morrison shocked the galaxy with his declaration of war. Across alien space, the response was mostly laughter and disbelief. On the luxury resort world of Paradesia, wealthy Trilaxian merchants sat by crystal pools and joked about the crazy humans. "Did you hear what that primitive species said?" chuckled Ambassador Veltar as he sipped his expensive drink. "They think they can fight the entire galaxy. It is like a mouse declaring war on an elephant." His friends nodded and laughed along. The idea of humans as a serious threat seemed ridiculous. After all, humans had only been in space for about 200 years. Most alien civilizations had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. On the Vorthon homeworld, General Krex met with his war council. The reptilian officers gathered around a holographic map showing human space. It looked very small compared to the vast territories controlled by the Empire. "Our intelligence reports show humans have perhaps 300 warships," said Colonel Vex, pointing at the display with his clawed finger. "We have over 2,000 ships in our main battle fleet alone. This will be the shortest war in galactic history." General Krex nodded his scaly head. "Send the Fifth Fleet to blockade their home system. A show of force should make them surrender quickly. We do not even need to fire a shot." The Etherian High Council met in their energy chambers floating above their crystal world. These beings were pure energy given form, and they considered themselves the most advanced species in the galaxy. "The humans are clearly suffering from some kind of mental illness," declared Council Leader Zilnara. Her voice hummed like electricity. "No rational species would make such threats. Perhaps we should study them to understand what went wrong with their evolution." While the aliens laughed and made plans, something very different was happening in human space. The Sol system buzzed with activity unlike anything seen since the early colony wars. Around Mars, massive orbital shipyards worked day and night. The red planet's sky glowed with the light of fusion forges building new warships. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the command station orbiting Earth. She was 55 years old with gray hair and sharp green eyes. She had fought in 3 colonial wars and knew more about space combat than any other human alive. The reports coming in made her smile grimly. Every human world was contributing to the war effort. The asteroid mining stations between Mars and Jupiter had been converted to weapons factories. The agricultural worlds were growing extra food to feed the growing fleets. Even the small research colonies were building defensive platforms. "Admiral, the latest production numbers are in," said her aide, Commander Rick Hall. He was a young man with black hair and worried eyes. "We now have 800 combat-ready ships, with 200 more coming online each week." Kate nodded. The numbers were impressive, but she knew they would need more than ships to win this war. They would need something the aliens did not expect. On Luna Base, Captain Ryan Blake met with his squadron commanders. He was 38 years old with brown hair and scars on his face from the Centauri campaign. His ship, the UES Defiance, was one of the new heavy battleships built specifically for this war. "Our orders are simple," Ryan told his officers. "We hit them fast and we hit them hard. No warning shots, no attempts to disable their ships. If they threaten human lives, we destroy them completely." Lieutenant Amy Foster raised her hand. She was the youngest officer in the room, with blonde hair and blue eyes. "Sir, what about galactic law? The Council has rules about space warfare." Ryan's expression grew cold. "The Council threatened to destroy our colonies and enslave our people. They gave up any right to expect mercy from us." Across human space, similar meetings were taking place. On the frontier world of New Austin, Sheriff Pete Morgan organized civilian militias. The colonists were mostly farmers and miners, but they knew how to shoot. Pete had been a soldier before becoming a sheriff, and he remembered the lessons of guerrilla warfare from Earth's bloody history. "If enemy ships land here, we make them pay for every meter of ground," Pete told the assembled volunteers. "We do not have fancy weapons like the aliens, but we have something they do not understand. We have the will to fight for our homes." Mayor Carol Foster worked with Pete to prepare the evacuation routes. She was a small woman with red hair and a fierce determination to protect her people. New Austin was one of the outer rim colonies that the Council wanted humans to abandon. Instead, it was becoming a fortress. "Every family needs to know where the shelters are," Carol explained to her staff. "But we are not just hiding. We are going to show these aliens what happens when they threaten human children." In the industrial sector of New Pittsburgh, engineer Lisa Carter worked 18-hour days to upgrade human weapons technology. She was brilliant with machines and had spent months studying captured alien technology. Her team had made some interesting discoveries. "The aliens use energy shields that can stop their own weapons," Lisa explained to her workers. "But they have never faced kinetic weapons like our railguns and missiles. Their shields might as well be made of paper." Her team was also working on something special. Human nuclear technology was considered primitive by galactic standards, but Lisa had found ways to make it much more effective. The new warheads would give alien commanders some very unpleasant surprises. Deep in the intelligence headquarters on Europa, Agent Dan Rivers studied reports from across alien space. He was a quiet man with gray hair and cold eyes who had spent 20 years gathering information about potential enemies. His network of spies and informants was finally ready to act. "The aliens think they know everything about human capabilities," Dan told his team. "They have no idea what we have been preparing for the last 50 years. Every major alien world has human agents in place. Every important military installation has been mapped. Every communication network has been infiltrated." Dan smiled as he looked at the intelligence files. The aliens were about to learn that humans had been expecting this war for a long time. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Kate Sullivan received the final reports from all human colonies. The mobilization was complete. Over 1,000 warships were ready for battle. Millions of humans had volunteered for military service. The industrial worlds were producing weapons and supplies faster than anyone had thought possible. Kate opened a secure communication channel to all fleet commanders. Their faces appeared on screens around her command center. These were the best officers humanity had to offer, and they were ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when threatened. In 6 hours we begin Operation Breakwater, Kate announced. We will hit 17 targets simultaneously across alien space. The galaxy expects us to surrender or negotiate. Instead, we are going to remind them why Earth's history is written in blood. The officers nodded grimly. They understood what was at stake. This was not just about territorial disputes or trade routes. This was about whether humanity would be free to chart its own destiny among the stars. Captain Ryan Blake returned to his ship and addressed his crew over the intercom. Today we show the galaxy who we really are. We are not some primitive species that can be bullied into submission. We are humans. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and 2 world wars. We have never surrendered to anyone, and we are not starting. Now, across the human fleet, similar speeches were being made. The time for words was over. The galaxy was about to learn what total war really meant. The first shots of the Human Council War were fired at exactly 8 in the morning, Galactic Standard Time. In 17 different star systems, human warships appeared out of hyperspace without warning. The aliens had expected negotiations, or perhaps small raids. Instead, they faced a coordinated assault across half the galaxy. Captain Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance as his ship dropped out of hyperspace near Vega Station. The massive trading post was surrounded by 12 Trilaxian merchant ships and 4 escort cruisers. The alien vessels were sleek and beautiful, covered in smooth curves and glowing energy fields. Target the escort ships first, Ryan ordered, his weapons officer. Full missile barrage. Lieutenant Amy Foster looked up from her console with wide eyes. Sir, they are trying to surrender. The lead ship is broadcasting a white flag signal. Ryan's face was stone cold. They threatened human children. Fire all weapons. The Defiance unleashed a storm of missiles and railgun rounds. The Trilaxian ships had energy shields designed to stop laser weapons and plasma cannons. They were not designed to stop solid chunks of metal moving at incredible speed. The railgun slugs punched through the shields like they were made of paper. The first escort ship exploded in a ball of fire. The second lost its engines and began spinning out of control. The third tried to run, but human missiles were faster. Within 5 minutes, all 4 military ships were destroyed or disabled. The merchant vessels huddled together and begged for mercy. Captain Blake opened a communication channel to all ships in the system. This is Captain Ryan Blake of the human fleet, he announced. Any ship that threatens human worlds or human lives will be destroyed. Any ship that aids our enemies will be destroyed. Any ship that tries to stop human expansion will be destroyed. This is your only warning. Far across the galaxy, similar battles were taking place. Above the crystal mines of Kepler-7, Commander Sarah Bell led 6 human destroyers against a Vorthan patrol fleet. The reptilian aliens commanded much larger ships with thicker armor and more powerful weapons, but the Vorthans fought like generals from ancient times. They formed neat battle lines and exchanged fire at long range following military traditions that were thousands of years old. They expected their enemies to do the same. Sarah Bell had other ideas. All ships, attack. Pattern Delta, she ordered. Get in close and stay close. The human destroyers broke formation and charged straight at the enemy fleet. The Vorthan commander, General Kex, watched in horror as the smaller ships raced toward his dreadnoughts at maximum speed. What are they doing? He hissed into his communicator. This is madness. They will be destroyed. But the human ships were too fast and too small for the big Vorthan guns to track properly. They slipped between the massive enemy vessels like wolves attacking elephants. At close range, human weapons could punch through weak spots in the alien armor. The destroyer UES Wolverine, commanded by Captain Bob Lee, found itself facing a Vorthan battleship 10 times its size. Instead of retreating, Bob ordered his ship to ram the enemy vessel. For humanity, Bob shouted as his ship crashed into the alien dreadnought's engine section. Both ships exploded, but the Wolverine's sacrifice crippled the much larger enemy vessel. Other human captains followed Bob's example. When their ships were damaged and facing defeat, they turned their vessels into weapons. The Vorthans had never seen anything like it. In their culture, commanders surrendered when defeat was certain. They did not throw away their lives for no reason. They did not understand that humans were not fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for survival. The Battle of Nexus Gate became the most famous engagement of the war. Nexus Gate was a massive space station that controlled the main hyperspace routes between the core worlds and the outer rim. If humans could capture it, they could cut off alien reinforcements to dozens of star systems. The Etherian Admiral Silthara commanded the defense fleet. She was considered one of the greatest military minds in the galaxy. Her force included ships from 6 different alien species, with enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Against her came Captain Beth Warren and her experimental stealth squadron. Beth was only 32 years old, but she had volunteered to test the new phase shift technology that human scientists had developed. Her ships could become almost invisible and slip through enemy defenses like ghosts. "Remember, we are not here to fight fair," Beth told her pilots. "We are here to win." The battle began when Admiral Silthara's fleet moved to block the main hyperspace routes. Her ships formed a defensive wall around Nexus Gate with overlapping fields of fire that could destroy any attacking force. But Beth's ships did not attack the defensive line. Instead, they phased into an alternate dimension and appeared inside the alien formation. The first the defenders knew of the attack was when their command ships began exploding. "Impossible!" Admiral Silthara cried as her flagship shook under human weapons fire. "How are they getting through our shields?" Her science officer, a nervous Tralaxian named Glix, studied his sensors with trembling hands. "Admiral, I am detecting massive quantum distortions. The human ships seem to be existing in multiple dimensions at the same time." Admiral Silthara ordered her fleet to focus fire on the human ships, but it was like trying to hit shadows. The moment her gunners locked onto a target, it would vanish and appear somewhere else. The battle turned into a nightmare for the aliens. Human ships would materialize next to an enemy vessel, fire all weapons, then disappear before return fire could reach them. One by one, the alien ships were picked apart. The end came when the ancient progenitor Dreadnought Eternal Glory entered the battle. The massive ship was over 5,000 years old and carried weapons that could crack moons. Its commander, War Prince Thalanor, was confident that no human ship could threaten his vessel. He was wrong. Captain Tony Cruz of the human battleship UES Retribution saw the alien dreadnought and made a decision that shocked both sides. Instead of retreating from the vastly superior enemy ship, he ordered his vessel to charge straight at it. "All power to engines," Tony commanded. "Collision course with the enemy flagship." His crew stared at him in amazement. The Eternal Glory was 50 times larger than their ship. A ramming attack was suicide. "Sir?" his first officer asked. "Are you sure about this?" Tony smiled grimly. "The aliens think their big ships make them invincible. Let us show them what humans do to bullies." The UES Retribution accelerated to maximum speed and crashed directly into the Eternal Glory's main reactor. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems away. Both ships were completely destroyed, but the psychological impact was enormous. War Prince Thalanor had been the oldest and most respected military commander in the galaxy. His ship had survived dozens of wars and was considered unsinkable. The fact that a human captain had destroyed it with a suicide attack sent shockwaves through alien space. Across the galaxy, the pattern was the same. Human forces used tactics that the aliens had never seen before. They fought with a desperation and fury that terrified their enemies. Most importantly, they showed a willingness to sacrifice themselves that no other species could understand. By the end of the first day of fighting, human forces had won victories in 15 of the 17 target systems. Alien military commanders who had laughed at the idea of human threats were now sending panicked messages to their governments. The galaxy was beginning to realize that they had made a terrible mistake. Humanity was not just another client species that could be bullied into submission. They were something much more dangerous. They were warriors who would rather die than surrender. 6 months after the war began, the Great Galactic Council Station was nothing but floating debris. The crystal structure that had been the center of galactic civilization for 3,000 years lay in ruins. Human plasma charges had shattered its walls and scattered its pieces across space. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the wreckage through the main window. Her fleet of human warships surrounded the broken station like predators around a fallen prey. After half a year of brutal fighting, the war was finally over. The cost had been terrible for both sides. Hundreds of human ships had been destroyed. Thousands of human soldiers and sailors had died in the fighting. But the aliens had paid a much higher price. Their mighty fleets were scattered or destroyed. Their trade routes were controlled by human forces. Their proud civilizations had been brought to their knees. "Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from the remaining alien governments," reported Commander Rick Hall. The young officer looked older now, aged by months of constant warfare. "The Trilaxian Trade Consortium is offering full surrender. The Vorthan Empire wants to negotiate terms. Even the Etherian High Council is asking for mercy." Kate nodded slowly. She had expected this moment, but it still felt strange to hear. The same alien species that had laughed at human threats 6 months ago were now begging for peace. "Patch me through to all alien leaders," Kate ordered. "It is time to discuss the new order." Minutes later, holographic images of alien commanders appeared around the bridge. Most of them looked defeated and afraid. Ambassador Veltar of the Trilaxians was trembling so badly that his image flickered. General Krex of the Vorthans kept his yellow eyes fixed on the floor. Even the energy being Zilnara of the Etherians seemed dimmer than before. "You called for our surrender," Kate said calmly. "Here are our terms. Complete recognition of human sovereignty over all territory we currently control. Full reparations for the damage done to human colonies. And establishment of humanity as the primary peacekeeping force in this galaxy." The aliens looked at each other nervously. Ambassador Veltar was the first to speak. "Admiral Sullivan, your terms are very harsh. The Trilaxian people have already lost 80% of our merchant fleet. We cannot afford to pay large reparations." Kate's expression did not change. "You should have thought about that before threatening human children." General Krex raised his scaly head. "The Vorthan Empire has ruled dozens of worlds for centuries. You cannot expect us to give up our territory to humans." "I am not asking you to give up your territory," Kate replied. "I am telling you that humanity will now protect those worlds from threats, including threats from you. Your people can keep their homes, but they will live under human protection." The negotiations continued for hours. Some aliens tried to argue for better terms. Others begged for mercy. A few still showed defiance, though their voices were weak and scared. Through it all, Kate remained firm. Humanity had not started this war, but they were going to finish it on their own terms. The galaxy would learn to live with human leadership, or it would learn to live in fear of human power. Meanwhile, on Earth, Jake Morrison was preparing for his new role as Secretary General of Human Galactic Affairs. The former ambassador now wore a military uniform instead of diplomatic clothes. His office was in the newly built Terran Embassy, a massive structure that hosted delegations from across the galaxy. "Sir, the Crystalline Collective is requesting membership in the Human Defense Alliance," reported his aide, Agent Dan Rivers. The former spy had become Jake's intelligence advisor. "They are offering to share their mineral resources in exchange for protection." Jake smiled. It was ironic that the same aliens who had once called humans primitive were now begging to join human organizations. The Crystalline Collective had been one of the most vocal critics of human expansion. Now they were afraid that other alien species might attack them without human protection. "Accept their request," Jake decided, "but make it clear that membership comes with responsibilities. They will follow human laws and respect human authority." Similar requests were coming in from across the galaxy. The war had destroyed the old balance of power. Small alien species that had once been protected by the Council were now vulnerable to attack from their neighbors. Only humanity had the military strength to keep the peace. Captain Ryan Blake, now promoted to Admiral, was establishing human bases on former Council worlds. His flagship, the UES Defiance, orbited the fortress world of New Austin. The small colony that the Council had wanted humans to abandon was now a symbol of human determination. Sheriff Pete Morgan, who had organized the civilian defense of New Austin was now the colonial defense commander for the entire sector. His farmers and miners had held off a 3-month siege by Vorthan forces. The story of their resistance had become famous throughout human space. "Admiral Blake, we have requests from 12 different alien species asking for human military advisors," Pete reported. "They want to learn human fighting techniques." Ryan laughed. 6 months ago, these same aliens had called human military tactics barbaric and uncivilized. Now they wanted to copy those tactics for their own defense. "Give them what they ask for," Ryan decided. "But make sure they understand that human tactics come with human values. We fight to protect the innocent, not to conquer the weak." On the industrial world of New Pittsburgh, engineer Lisa Carter was overseeing the reconstruction of damaged alien worlds. Her team had developed new technologies that could repair war damage much faster than traditional methods. Planets that had been devastated by the fighting were already showing signs of recovery. "The Etherian crystal cities are responding well to our new repair techniques," reported her assistant, Dr. Amy Foster. The former naval officer had decided to leave the military and help with reconstruction efforts. "Their energy patterns are stabilizing much faster than their own scientists predicted." Lisa nodded with satisfaction. Humans were not just good at destroying things, they were also very good at building them back up. The galaxy was learning that human leadership meant protection and prosperity, not just conquest and destruction. The final ceremony took place on the rebuilt Council Station, now renamed Unity Station. Representatives from hundreds of alien species gathered to sign the new Galactic Charter. The document established humanity as the galaxy's primary peacekeeping force while guaranteeing rights and protections for all species. Jake Morrison stood at the podium where High Arbiter Kex Thalan had once pronounced judgment on humanity. The ancient progenitor was present, but now he sat in the audience with other alien delegates. The positions of power were now held by humans. 6 months ago, this council demanded that humanity surrender our freedom and abandon our children, Jake said to the assembled delegates. "Today, we establish a new order based on respect and mutual protection. Any species that wishes to live in peace will find humanity to be a faithful guardian. Any species that chooses war will discover why humans have never been conquered." The alien delegates listened in respectful silence. Some looked ashamed of their earlier behavior. Others seemed genuinely grateful for the protection that human leadership offered. All of them understood that the galaxy had changed forever. Jake finished his speech. Admiral Kate Sullivan entered the hall. She had retired from active military duty, but her presence still commanded respect from every person in the room. The woman who had led humanity to victory now served as an advisor to the new galactic government. "The war is over," Kate announced. "Humanity has proven that we do not just belong among the stars. We were born to lead them. The galaxy is now under human protection, and we will never allow anyone to threaten innocent lives again." The applause that followed came from both human and alien delegates. The new order was not perfect, but it was just. Under human leadership, the galaxy would know peace and prosperity. And any fool who tried to challenge human authority would quickly learn why Earth's children had conquered the stars. The age of human dominance had begun,